Warning: this podcast does not introduce any new information outside the Foundation's curriculum. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey there, Central Liners! Welcome to the 6th episode of Real Doctors, Real Friends, the official podcast of Foundations of Medicine. I'm your host, Shereen, along with my partner in medical education, Roshan.
Hey everyone, we are especially excited to be broadcasting live from the Northern Alberta Medical Program campus in Grande Prairie today, right here with our incredible first-year medical students.
Congratulations on completing week 6 of Foundations. We've officially made it to the halfway point of this block, and we hope you had a great week.
Our major theme this week was GI and oncology, as many of you put together, although in practice, it's a great combination. Sometimes when we teach it, it's a little bit harder to fit those two things together. As physicians, understanding the anatomical organization of the GI tract is crucial. Remember that the GI tract is a long, muscular tube stretching from mouth to anus. Starting from the lumen outward, the 4 layers we studied are the innermost mucosa, the submucosa, the thick muscularis externa, and the outermost serosa. This composition is similar from the mid-esophagus to the anus.
And like I always say, that structure supports function. For instance, the muscularis externa, composed of inner circular and outer longitudinal layers, generates motility via peristalsis and segmentation, ensuring contents move through the tract.
Critically, the blood that perfuses the small intestine and carries absorbed nutrients flows directly to the liver via the hepatic portal vein. This portal circulation is essential because the liver acts as a filter to remove potentially harmful substances and process nutrients before the blood enters systemic circulation.
And speaking of absorption, we focused heavily this week on iron homeostasis. Iron absorption occurs predominantly in the duodenum, which relies on an acidic environment to maintain iron solubility.
And this process is tightly controlled because once iron is absorbed, there is essentially no mechanism for iron excretion. When the body's iron stores are high, the liver produces and releases hepcidin, which acts as the master regulator. Hepcidin binds to ferroportin, or FPN1, the iron exporter on the enterocyte, which effectively prevents the transfer of ferrous iron into the bloodstream.
This regulation is critical, especially when diagnosing GI malignancy. Remember Ms. Shakil's case from our weekly review. Iron deficiency anemia is the most common extraintestinal finding in patients with colorectal cancer due to occult blood loss and altered iron absorption. That term, occult blood loss, refers to blood in the stool or urine.
And if some of you were listening during our review session, Christy, our intrepid second-year medical student, mentioned the FIT test, which is the testing that we use, the fecal immunochemical test, that is responsible for actually picking up on some of that really microscopic blood that shows up and can actually be one of the first signs that a patient has bleeding, GI bleeding, and is therefore one of the best options we have for screening for colorectal cancer.
Right.
So we should also mention the coordination required for fat absorption. If a patient isn't exhibiting steatorrhea or fatty stool, we can potentially rule out severe fat malabsorption issues. Fat absorption requires the coordinated action of bile salts for emulsification, pancreatic lipase for chemical breakdown, and lacteals for chylomicron transport.
This block also highlighted pathologies like GI cancers. Malignant tumors, particularly those arising from the glandular epithelial lining of a duct, like in colon cancer, are precisely classified as an adenocarcinoma.
The definitive characteristic distinguishing a malignant tumor from a benign one is the capacity for local invasion of surrounding tissue. Benign tumors are typically well circumscribed and displace tissue, but malignant tumors are poorly circumscribed and destroy adjacent structures. For instance, lymph nodes suggest malignancy are often characterized by being fixed, hard, matted, and painless.
The uncertainty of cancer risk brings us to genetics. We learned that genetic variation exists across a wide spectrum, from extra or missing whole chromosomes, called aneuploidy, like 47, XY, and 18 down to single nucleotide substitutions.
Also, in regards to genetics, selecting the right test is vital. For detecting large structural chromosomal abnormalities like a balanced translocation, a karyotype is required, as opposed to microarrays or sequencing, which would typically miss them because there is no net gain or loss of material.
And sometimes the results are not straightforward. In cases like Carrie Foster, whose mother had breast cancer and older sister had early onset ovarian cancer, we suspect a hereditary breast ovarian cancer syndrome. But even in high-risk patients, the result might be a variant of uncertain significance, or VUS.
Yes, a VUS is an unclear result because of insufficient data. It does not establish a diagnosis and is generally not actionable. We must emphasize this when we're counseling.
When counseling about predictive testing for autosomal dominant conditions like the hereditary breast ovarian cancer or HBOC syndrome, we stress that inheriting a pathogenic variant does not guarantee they will develop cancer due to incomplete penetrance. We have to discuss the pros and cons of predictive testing because the knowledge can profoundly impact a patient's quality of life.
As I mentioned in the weekly review, that is absolutely true. For some of us, that knowledge can serve as a positive motivator, but for many of us, that knowledge can have a significant negative impact. This week, we also considered metabolic aspects of cancer. Cancer development involves accumulating driver mutations, which often results in the hallmarks of cancer. Our focus also included deregulating cellular energetics.
That's the Warburg effect. Cancer cells preferentially use glycolysis over efficient oxidative phosphorylation, even when oxygen is available. They do this because glycolysis produces rapid metabolic intermediates, in other words, the building blocks, needed for quick proliferation, which prioritizes biosynthesis over maximum energy yield.
Now, turning our attention to our perennial favorite, the CanMEDS framework.
As always.
We must also consider the professional role. Given the stress and competing demands of medical education, learning skills like physician self-regulation and engaging in both self-reflection and reframing are fundamental to developing our professional identity.
This role involves recognizing key values of the profession, applying professionalism in medical education, and understanding basic legal and ethical challenges. It's interesting how elements of the professional role, like documenting boundary setting or ethical circumstances in patient encounters, are rarely seen directly in the documentation of the SOAP note.
And before I forget, if we're talking about our story of the week, which I don't necessarily know if we had put that in here, man, hats off again to Sid Hampshire for her role in that and just the incredible, first of all, last minute involvement in our story of the week. We really appreciate her involvement there. Yeah. We know that careful history taking is the most important tool for changing the trajectory for families with hereditary cancer syndromes, which is why asking those important questions ends up leading you in the right direction. And this is especially true before rushing to genetic tests or companion diagnostics.
Now, speaking of assessment, albeit in a totally different context, remember to apply SMART study strategies for the midterm next week. Don't forget to review concepts like DNA repair mechanisms.
And maybe specifically mismatch repair identifies incorrect replication errors, specifically mismatch base repairs, that DNA polymerase failed to catch using its inherent 3 to 5 exonuclease proofreading activity. A defect in mismatch repair leads to hereditary cancer syndromes like Lynch syndrome.
Contrast that with nucleotide excision repair, which removes bulky DNA lesions such as pyrimidine dimers caused by UV radiation.
Now, after all that, it's been a fun week, and we are so excited to be here in the NAMP campus because this campus is incredible.
Yes.
For those of you that aren't experiencing this every day as part of our listeners or abroad, you are clearly missing out. We are right now situated in a simulation room.
Yes.
Because we wanted to do the episode from a simulation room. And yeah, I mean, if we could actually, I don't want to make it too jarring, but basically we are in one of many very cool rooms that are right next to lecture halls.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Yeah. So it's been a fun week. We love that we're capping it off here in NAMP. But as per our RDRF tradition, you guessed it, it's time for the real test of friendship, where we debate a divisive issue, and it's okay to agree to disagree. We also invite our listeners to join in and vote to determine a winner each week. Last week, our challenge was 90s trash talk TV culture and 90s fashion.
Well, the results are in, Central Liners, and they reveal deep divisions in our cohort. For the question, if 90s trash talk TV culture is viewed as a latent source of social dysfunction, should its return be treated like an aggressive medical flare-up? The majority, 56% of you, said no, arguing that we should embrace it as a rapid, highly accessible form of nostalgic fun that provides immediate, explosive discussion, even if it leads to a subsequent exhaustion, kind of like stored ATP. Meanwhile, for the question, when considering the resource allocation required for a cultural revival, is bringing back 90s fashion a necessary systemic intervention? A slight majority, so 53%, said yes, following the example set by Greg's story and advocating for its return, ensuring systemic changes to guarantee both accessibility and proper fitting.
So I used to do the polls all by myself, but AI has definitely played a big role. And definitely at the end of our RDRF season, we're going to have to outline how AI has actually been extremely helpful for us, because there is no way I'd actually be able to write that. So I am grateful that we do have some assistance in the podcast script writing, at least, and at the very least the poll generation.
Yeah.
But now, Shereen, this is something that AI can not replicate. Here's the real test of our friendship for this week, because we had this happen on the airplane trip here. Airplane snacks. Are you team salty or team sweet?
So this is a classic debate. I am definitely team salty. I need those little bags of pretzels and nuts. Dare I say it's an opportunity for electrolyte intake that pairs well with the complementary water.
So it's telling me to say that I'm going with team sweet, but I actually have to agree with you that it is team salty all the way. It says that I'm supposed to say I always crave gummy bears or a chocolate bar when flying, which... It's not that
That's
don't.
Not bad.
It's not a bad thing.
Especially if it's like an eat more.
Wow.
That's energy boost.
We're going to talk about chocolate bars. Is it too early to talk about chocolate bars?
I think we'll wait for Halloween, maybe.
I think we have to wait for Halloween. To wait for Halloween. Yeah, the Halloween episode. Because I had an eat more again.
It's amazing.
3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I thought of you because I was like, oh, it's here. It's on sale. I'll grab it.
It's a healthy choice.
Oh, sure. That's the reason. Healthier choice.
Well, okay, let me argue my point.
Yes, fair enough.
Dare I say, it's an opportunity for electrolyte intake. It pairs well with the complementary water. I think choosing salty snacks is far superior because they directly support physiological needs, especially during long flights, which tend to be a dry environment. During long periods of inactivity, it is vital to maintain electrolyte balance. So the sodium intake might trigger thirst, but it helps regulate fluid dynamics, and the kidneys will manage this balance through processes involving water reabsorption to maintain our plasma osmolarity. If you choose sweet, I think you're at risk of disrupting your glucose homeostasis.
And mean, maybe this needs to turn into some sort of review question where we compare the two and we pit both. We split the class up into two and get each part to fight each other over it. But I'm going to play devil's advocate. Okay. Even though I'm mostly
more
agree with
team
you,
salty. Okay.
Right. So sweet snacks are a superior choice because they provide readily available glucose, which is the preferred initial energy source. Yeah. Since simple carbohydrates are quickly digested in the small intestine into monosaccharides like glucose and absorbed rapidly, you get a burst of metabolic energy to focus on your studies, if that's what you're doing on the plane, or reading or listening to a movie or watching a movie, rather than stressing your renal system with excess salt that could lead to volume changes and, dare I say, edema.
Yeah, I guess if you're not moving that skeletal muscle pump,
right?
That fluid can accumulate in the lower extremity, especially if you forgot your compression socks at home.
Right? So maybe glucose is the better option because you need that.
Yeah, and you need that
energy.
burst of energy to run to your connecting flight if you've got a connection.
After the stored ATP.
Yeah, that's right. After the stored ATP. Well, there's another thing that we can discuss while it's GI themed week and we've just taken a flight to NAMP and we're going to be taking a flight back to Edmonton.
I'm going to be thinking about this the whole flight now.
Okay. Now, some of our listeners out there may have seen these video clips. Whoever is farting on the plane, please stop.
This is very highbrow podcasting right here. Up there with Joe Rogan and Kill Tony.
Here's the thing. From a physiological perspective, can we really blame anyone that feels compelled to pass gas on an airplane or maybe can't even stop it from happening in the first place?
Considering pressure changes that occur in an airplane cabin, gases that are naturally present in the gut as a result of digestive processes, especially if there's a lot of glucose, expand significantly, which can be very uncomfortable. And the way to deal with that is to simply as the Disney movie Frozen says, let it go.
Just let it go. Well, this phenomenon even has a name, high altitude flatus expulsion, which actually sounds to me like something from SpaceX or NASA.
HAFE.
You're bringing it into an acronym. Well, it is a physiological response and it affects everyone. Unfortunately, odors can hang around for a longer time in an environment such as an airplane cabin because most of the air is recirculated.
Although not completely preventable, it can help to avoid carbonated beverages and high fiber foods such as legumes before a flight, especially if it's going to be a long one.
And for any of our listeners out there that might remember a particular Mad TV sketch, if you're of a certain vintage,
the goat,
you can always say, it wasn't me, it was the couch.
Oh, man. I actually had, although I'm a big fan of Mad TV over SNL, and anyone can fight me on that. I loved Mad TV when I was allowed to watch it later on. And I had actually not seen that.
No?
No.
Oh, maybe we can share a link.
Maybe I think it's appropriate enough. There aren't any swear words in there.
I think so.
I think it's okay.
Well, there it is, Central Liners. Help us settle our debate this week. Let us know if your preferred airplane snack is salty for renal stability or sweet for metabolic energy, and we'll reveal the results in our next episode of Real Doctors, Real Friends.
Before we sign off, we want to take a moment to wish all our listeners the best of luck. We know the midterm is next week, so take care of yourself, study smart, and remember, all of your hard work over the past several weeks will support your success.
Have a great weekend, Central Liners, and congratulations on completing week 6 of Foundations. Take care, everyone.